May the 30th, the Ukraine Media Center is on. Your anchor is Svetlana Cheperenko. We are talking about the Pride Month in Ukraine, and we'll see in mid-June the March of Equality. Joining us today is Anna Sharyhina, co-founder of the Kharkiv Women's Association Sphere NGO. Later on, Viktor Pylypenko will be joining us. He is the head of the Ukrainian LGBT Military for Equal Rights NGO. Welcome, ma'am. It is very important to publicly spell out your position and without expecting any justifications to tell people the truth right there. I think that the history of the Pride March has seen 12 years of history, quite a serious span of time. We began with the Equality March, and they grew into a phenomenon that we see throughout Europe. This month we'll see a number of events, both educational and all sorts of events. Now, I would like to say that the Pride Month has not happened in Ukraine the way it has in Europe. Unfortunately, it's still a long time to go. In European countries, the Pride marches are held under the auspices of the authorities, and all the premises are used, and then they earn money to develop the LGBT community. Well, before the full-scale invasion, we saw some level of support of the community and the readiness of the community to talk about our rights, which was a significant achievement per se. That was an achievement of all the civil society. Pride events were supported and backed by a number of communities and organizations. What are we going to see? We will see a number of educational events, including the event on the 7th of June in one of the halls and venues at the exhibition of economic inventions. The Courage Bazaar has granted us the ability to set up 2 stages where we will see different lectures. This year's focus and our strength is to support Ukraine's ambition to join the European Union. We want to know all the people in Europe, people who are responsible for or are engaged in the process of Ukraine's European integration, the decision makers, the influencers. They're called to see free, not free altogether, say, from the Russian influence, but internally free, spiritually free state that honors and respects human rights. That's the first point. On the second note, the 14th of June, we'll see Kyiv Pride March. We are not here to discuss all the details. These details are still being green-lighted with the municipal authorities and the police force. We are holding a number of events, writing to each other, waiting for backup and support. Now, my point is that this year, we have been talking a lot with different representatives of civil society, NGOs, etc. Viktor will talk about the military. I cannot talk about and for the military because I'm a civil person, but we are in contact with the volunteer organizations and movements. They have been very actively engaged in our cooperation in fundraising for the Ukrainian armed forces. And a number of partners will be holding their own events in support of the Pride Month, which is of value in itself. What can we announce now? The educational, the public awareness events, and who are your partners? For sure, I can talk about the Kyiv Pride Park that will be held on the 7th of June. We'll be discussing the following topics, as I have mentioned. A main focus I have already mentioned, but we will see the representatives of the Council of Europe, both men and women, and we'll be talking about the success stories, the practices that have brought in results, and they will be sharing their experiences and their culture and their values. On the second point, we'll be talking about people. Anatoly Yerema will be a moderator. He will be leading a discussion with people who are doing what they're doing in terms of investing some values. The Courage Bazaar that I have already mentioned. What we have seen here is that this event is a business event, and Courage Bazaar, the Courage Bazaar, they are focusing on the values. They not only show their avatars of the New Year's Eve or New Year celebration or the Easter. No, they have been actively engaged with other businesses that I don't think would make sense to talk about them now. We are talking and engaging cultural institutions whose main focus and core focus doesn't seem to be LGBT movement, but they share our values. We also will be talking about the connection of the Russian propaganda and homophobic practices. Homophobic narrative is part and parcel of the Russian propaganda and their narrative. We have invited Elena Chechenina to moderate such a discussion. And on a separate note, I would like to mention the LGBT discussion with the LGBT community. Viktor is here. We will have other participants. Among things that I can talk about for sure, we will see short movies. And this is only what will be going on one stage. The other stage will see the discussion, the pressing issues that are relative to the discussion of the LGBT community per se. And we'll see small business and medium-sized businesses. We zero in on the Ukrainian producers, and they have been invited. We are not only engaged in what I would call pride events. These events will translate some values. For example, physically challenged people and the accessibility. We are not sure this will be a success story. We are now in discussion with our colleagues. It is important for us to support our military. We will hold the collection of money for our military. I can't tell for sure now because we know that who are the people and military we are collecting money for. Apart from fundraising, we will be holding different workshops, educational classes. How shall I sell the different practices? Because people are now burning out, including myself. And I say that in a serious way because I know everybody knows we have not come through this melting experience. Everyone is under stress. And our motto is, who will do it except us? We have experience, we have knowledge. Perhaps we know more people who could provide a public support for the people of our community. This is what we are going to do. Let us talk about the March of Equality. That will take place in a week's time after the festival. We are now in negotiations with the municipal authorities and the police. Perhaps you have some algorithms of how to cooperate with them? Has it become easier for you to find a middle ground with them? I know this is a serious question. You know, if it was the case that we lived in a simple times, for example, in a situation where there are simple answers to tricky questions. If I come to a head of police, national police, or other type of police, or the military administration, and I tell them, you know, the LGBT community has decided to hold a march of pride, and this is important for the Ukrainian community because there are people who have been disadvantaged, and LGBT military are dying for this country, those who are in the Ukraine armed forces. And the answer will be this. To be sure, Anya, of course, where will we put the biological toilets on the route of your march, and where shall we set up the stage to hold a concert, a gig for the fundraising at the end of the march? Can you imagine this? We held a close meeting, a meeting that I wouldn't describe as a cooperative one, but they didn't turn you down, did they? Everything's gonna be all right. I don't know what to say at this point in time. I believe this is a process for negotiation. What I can share now is that I expected more from that meeting. I thought that stemming from the lessons we learned last year would be a departure point while analyzing what we did last year and all the communication we held last year, because I think last year's Pride March was very good is a fact. But the police, I think, the fact that police were assaulted and the police prevented the assault against Kyiv Pride March, and they took upon themselves, it's a good thing. I don't know what could we have done to prevent such an assault, but we have seen such an experience in Sunny Bunny where there was a colossal pressure from the faith-based organizations. However, the police was very much successful, and we are sure that there are a lot of resources, enough resources and experiences with the police to localize such groups who, by the way, include minors, and the representative of the police mentioned the fact today that people who joined the events at the Sunny Bunny were underage and were not of full age. This is what we are thinking when we are planning Kyiv Pride March. Currently, we don't have any specific information. How would I build this march? My team is coming to the authorities and say, this is one option, this is another option. Perhaps it'll be better for you to function. But however, last year, the response was that for the march to be successful, it must launch at 7 o'clock in the morning. Our answer is this will be hell of a march. It's not going to happen. Let us talk in a constructive way. This is a very complicated Byzantine way of negotiations. Last year, the law and order was ensured, and I'm sure that this year will be successful in our negotiations. This year we'll see a march pride that will be not open to everybody. It will be restricted. I remember the last one before the full-scale war. It was a massive event of European level turnout. We are now living in the environment of the full-scale invasion, and perhaps mass events are not allowed. You see, I am living and working in the city of Kharkiv. And for a number of years, I have been engaged in organizing Kyiv Pride March. And my point is, all having been said, the most issues we have heard. Now, the fact is that apart from the fact that there are events, but LGBT faces a lot of claims, issues, and I don't think this is right. You see, our partners and friends are holding a event of 20,000 strong people. There are other events that we know about. For example, I'm not talking about particularly the Atlas event. And the question is for the organizational authorities. What are they doing for the event to be safe? For example, what are we doing? Now, during the festival at our pavilion, we have a venue to hold 1,500 people. I don't remember the fact that the Pride March would last longer than 60 minutes. But is it real to talk about half an hour duration? For example, our route, it might be from one metro station to another metro station, from one exit to another exit of the metro station. This is not a time now to announce the specific route. We are open, we are ready to cooperate. We are coming up with our proposals and decisions, and perhaps the ball in the court of the municipal authorities. Perhaps they will advise us on something constructive. Viktor, can I turn to you? We have already mentioned the topic of war, a topic that punctuates our life. You are a military, you are an open representative of the LGBT plus community. Now, a question that perhaps is constantly raised by the government and by the community, this is not the right time. Is it the right time? Of course it is. I am representing the whole community of both military and the veterans, the lion's share of whom are now at the front. Can you imagine their state of affairs? They're soldiers, they're warriors, and they're watching. We are talking about millions of people. LGBT includes more than 1 million persons, and the teenagers, women, seniors, people of the senior age, they are defenseless, and they are prevented by other civilian structures from voicing and standing up for their rights, including the municipal authorities, members of local authorities, or parliament. And the message is that you are fighting the Russians, and you are losing the values. You are asking yourselves, what is it that I am fighting for? Because in Ukraine, people who have been stigmatized all over the place cannot defend themselves. What is it that we are fighting for? This feeling of unjust affairs is ripping us apart, including the Kyiv community of LGBT soldiers, and will be backing up and will be engaged in this event. In English, the lions and the pride is used as a pride of lions, or a meaning of justice. You know, you see the people wearing some signs of a rainbow. You have to be very courageous. And I'm talking about teenagers, for example, because these are people that seem to be so much defenseless. And by coming out, they are very courageous. In a country in a time of war, they can be assaulted by showing up the signs of rainbow. And they are open, and we are part of the community. We want to defend those kids and the community. And we'll be represented at the Equality March. Boys and girls will get together. We are living under different circumstances, but last year we organized a whole column with our demands and slogans. And our first demand was Arm Ukraine Now. For the one thing, we are doing that on a constant basis. This is a planned action. This is not that we are doing during the Equality March. We've been doing a lot of fundraising. You can Google it and you'll see how much money we have fundraised. We are helping this country. And this has not spared those stupid persons who assaulted the police and wanted to beat their compatriots, the Ukrainians. So we will be trying to come out with a number of people. As we saw last year, we hope that boys and girls who will be free from their service, who are on rotation now, will join us. And I call on those who haven't yet joined our community, who feel lonely in their military units, perhaps they are discriminated against, join us, because we must fight for our rights. As for the other Pride events at the exhibition place, and the other idea has just dawned on me, perhaps Anya will not agree with this, but I challenge the homophobes from the military who are open in their hatred. Come to us, let us talk. Very often you come with different slogans, with your faces covered by the balaclavas, and you want to beat us while you show up in your prides. Come to us, let's talk an equal discussion in an open space. I'm not hiding. It's easy to find me. It's easy to find Anya. Welcome. The talk will be mediated by a neutral journalist, Nastya Stanko. She is a military blogger. She has been to the front on many occasions. It'll be an exciting and constructive talk. Viktor, following up the topic of courage, you mentioned the teenagers who are open in wearing their hearts on their sleeves. How difficult is it to be an LGBT member in the Ukrainian military? This is a very specific group of people living in the very specific environment, tough environment, frightening environment. Your experience, will you share with us and people you know, what is it, your observation? Are these people hiding? Perhaps boys and girls are talking about those things. What's your take? It is not easy. It depends on your commander, on the unit where you are serving. It depends on your personality. But when you represent the LGBT community, and I'm talking in particular about women, you have to walk additional 10 kilometers in your training, in serving and carrying out your combat assignments. You have to be the best. You have to be the best to be accepted as other people are accepted. Even the worst straight people, you see, they are not as equal as we are. I'm, of course, know that all of our army are heroes. Of course, army is not equal. It's not neutral to these issues. When you are straight, it's one thing. People know that you are a gay. Perhaps they will find fault with you. Not all of them. Ukrainians are very good to us in general. I am serving in 72nd Brigade. We have about 40 plus boys coming from different settlements and villages, and it was a surprise for them that next to them is an open gay fighting with them, and I have never seen aggression. On some occasions, I did. In some units where the commanders allow to breach the rules and regulations, and they support different ideologies, including ultra-extremist ideology, including the racist ones. This is where it is quite difficult for LGBT to be open. They are hiding their identity. There are people there. I know them. They are part of our community. People have been frightened to a point where they are afraid to talk to our other community members. They are leading quite a hidden life, but they are hiding their identity from their brethren in arms. And I believe such units are not safe. There is not a feeling of camaraderie. I think that the commanders who are homophobic, they will send gay people to be killed. They see them as cannon fodder, because if you don't like the people who serves under you, and then they know that there is a point where people are humiliated, it means that these people will do this not only for the members of the LGBT community, but any other straight persons. If you have protested against some abuse against your sergeant, you are under the risk because you are open. Then I will use you as a cannon fodder. This is a matter of personal relations. It doesn't relate to LGBT community exclusively. It has to do with all the people who stand for their ground and have the human decency. Last year, Anna, we saw the discussion of the draft legislation to that effect, the partnership legislation. It looks that such a discussion will be taken off the table of discussion at Parliament. If I am allowed to, what I would add to the facts of discrimination, I will not be talking about the military, but about the civil structure. This is the trend that we are seeing, that such facts are being muzzled, are being paid lip service to, and people seem to be tending towards closing their eyes. I think that the fact that we saw before the first full-scale invasion, to be a homophobic was a shame. I think to be homophobic is not a matter of pride now, but to support such ideology has become more risky. People are afraid to lose their privileges, their benefits. Policymakers are afraid of losing their power base, and businesses, of course, are afraid of their assets. But we are supported in general. Going back to your question of the current agenda, this year, Kyiv Pride, under the consultations with the activists from our community, we have defined four core demands plus 3 additional demands. The first 4 is to introduce the criminal liability for hate speech and intolerance. Such attempts have been made at the Ukrainian parliament. And of course, this is part of our commitment vis-a-vis European community. Second point is to recognize family partnership for the military and the civil persons as equality of marriage. Third point, to fill out the Ukraine's commitment towards European membership on our way towards membership. On the 14th of May, I think it was, the sitting of the ministers of government has green-lighted this roadmap in terms of the human rights. And the last of core demand is to introduce in Ukraine the procedures to recognize the gender identity of a person without medical diagnostics. Perhaps this is a rarefied language for the laymen and laywomen, but the demand has to do with the system of healthcare system. In a nutshell, the such people have to accept that they are psychologically unstable and ill. It's complete nonsense. As for the civil partnerships, as for the draft law 91093, it's in the limbo. And there are comments that it has got stuck. And this is why the discussions are going on to the effect whether a new draft law will be initiated or some amendments will be introduced. Unfortunately or fortunately, I'm not a policy maker. I'm not a member of parliament. The only thing I have to say is it looks as if we have not approached the discussion. That's why we are demanding that this should be discussed. You see, Ukraine's Euro integration demands that the legislation should be changed, but marriage equality is not a direct demand. But I would like to turn to the hotheads now. All the financial requirements, economic requirements, requirements for adaptation of the Ukrainian infrastructure, and perhaps legal requirements. They call for a very serious financial resource from Ukraine, apart from the inclusion, not in terms of LGBT community, but other communities within the Ukrainian community. This is why I believe that it is a good thing that Ukrainian society may accept the position of being friendly to the LGBT community, or at least the Ukrainian community will be aware that while joining EU, the fact that hatred, speech, hate is not acceptable, not because you don't like some specific people, but because we are citizens. You see, we are enjoying the freedom of speech, but we also have responsibilities and we have our rights. There are some limitations to every personality, but there are limits for other personalities, and these limitations must be respected and honored. You can look at the sociological research done in Ukraine. All of them state that Ukrainians are against the discrimination against LGBT people, and the Ukrainians are in favor of civil partnerships. The majority of the respondents during a lot of time and period are against LGBT discrimination. The policymakers that we are trying to talk to, they present and represent Ukraine abroad, including in the European Union. And they show the Ukrainian people as if people are afraid of such a policy, and they're afraid to vote for such a legislation, including other legislation on civil partnership, the one against discrimination, including homophobic ideology. This is where the members of parliament must revisit their position, and I call on the President, Volodymyr Zelensky, to talk to his party on the issue why unpopular laws are passed in this country. For example, levies and taxations are passed, and laws on those issues are passed, although they're not unpopular, but nothing is done for the boys and girls who are fighting for this country. It is unjust. What does it mean? It means that these policymakers are only interested in money. Anything beyond money is not that there's something interested in. They're not interested in values, in other things, because this will not be monetary beneficial for them. I call all the homophobic people or other people, pay attention to this point. It's protrusion of the state and of the government. This is a selection of their motives, and their motive is only one thing: money. I would also like to talk about the changes in the society, what we've seen so far since 2012 and 13. We have progressed in terms of treating LGBT community. Pride Parade, it's not a holiday, isn't it? It's not a festivity only. But thanks to people like Viktor, people who are open, and LGBT people as a result are closer to us. We understand that they are amongst us. How does it feel like to be living in a society? Let's talk about the youth, the current generation. I think they have changed. Kids are watching Netflix series. They're watching Hollywood movies where LGBT community are heavily present. Has the society changed, do you think? Yesterday, I was invited to a podcast in one school in the village of Petrivci, and they wanted me to talk about pride. I was met by the director of the school, and that principal thanked me for coming to her school. And before that, I had a dialogue with a policymaker who is likely to run for a member of parliament place. And he indirectly wrote to me that these are not urgent issues. And after that, I went to the village of Petrivci, and I saw school children there in that village near the capital city. These kids think otherwise as compared to the person who thinks that he is a political influencer and claims some political authority. I think that the Ukrainian society has remained a different, holds different points of views. I work not only in Kyiv and in the city of Kharkiv, where we visit different territorial communities, where in the Kharkiv region we see people who are not aware of the simple elementary things because they don't have the access to the information. It's not a matter of education. It's a matter of when we bring specialists in mental health, and they ask people what are the features of stress. And ordinary people are asking, what is stress? This is a sign difference between the people living in the cities and people living in rural areas where they don't have a good access to high-quality information. I'm sure that people from the rural communities are not aware of the gay communities, and they don't know that such people must be hated. This is the message from the policymakers, perhaps. As for the progress in the public opinion, I would say the following. This year, we have been talking to a lot of people asking for support of the Kyiv Pride and Pride Month in particular, and many a response from the businesses and from the institutions was that we support equality. It is cool that Pride will take place, but we are not ready to talk about this openly. And even people who have a lot of possibilities. Chernenko case, for example. What I saw was that the so-called black PR is used as a a gay personality identity is something that is used as accusation, as if it is an accusation in itself. For example, Sergei Chernenko was claimed to be a gay, as if it was a bad thing and something that would compromise him. It's just an example. I think that we should treat people according to what they do. The same goes for the Kyiv Pride. If we collect money for the Ukrainian military, to be honest with you, I am embarrassed and humiliated that there are people who say, we don't need your gay fag money. This is what I have heard myself. And this is something that makes me sad. But fortunately, I would like to tell you, this will not stop me, at least in supporting the Ukrainian military. This is an unconditional love. This is unconditional support. So, yes, the society has changed. And Viktor, can I turn to you? How about the young people? Yes, they seem to be enjoying different values. Remember the Sunny Bunny event. I think they said that either 63 or 68 people were arrested, and these were people under 15 years of age. And I track here the Russian roots. When I saw some people who used to be very much patriotic, quote unquote, we see that these are people working for the Russian propaganda. What I see now is that some proto-nationalist movements and groups are supported by Russian. This is this is something I surmise. But I will tell you who benefits when Ukrainians are fighting because of some sexual identity. In my supposition is who is interested in portraying the Ukrainian nationalist movement as homophobic. I think the answer is self-evident. I would like to follow up. It's a clear fact that these people are directly connected to the Russian SFB. Mr. Kerchinsky met one of the ideologues of Russian Mir, Mr. Dugin, where they were discussing how Ukraine could oppose NATO membership. This video are available on the net. You have to Google this. And they have now raised up their hands, although they have been bullied and to a good degree. Now they're raising their head because, these kids' parents are at the front. No one is talking to them. On the YouTube, I saw that this video, there was an attempt to purge them. And, when it comes down to Sunny Bunny, I saw that the Brotherhood, the Voice of Blood, and other organizations that saw the same identity banners and insignia. You see, we are talking about 11-year-old boys. They have some spare money. Can you imagine that they will invest into branding of such type? This is all instrumentalization of our underage people by filling them with the feeling of aggression and pushing them towards crime, and this is when they are arraigned by the police with all the consequences. When these are kids, of course, they will not be jailed or criminally liable, but this is a sad thing to watch, how young people are set up. Instead of getting education and making friends and working on their identity, these kids spend their life on aggression, on getting together and stalling people who are different in everything, their identity. And I blame here such Kerchinsky and his types. These are the people who were trained in the schools of Dugin and in the Russian city of Seliger, who are so consistent in pushing their Russian agenda. Kerchinsky is not alone, and I call on the Ukrainian security service to track all those connections, people who are trying to set Ukrainians against other Ukrainians, because this spoils our image abroad. People abroad, what they see is a ready-made picture on the Euronews or the BBC. Today we saw the March of Equality, and youngsters in balaclavas assaulted these people. And what the people in Europe are thinking, who are these people that we are helping, that we are aiding? Because this country is homophobic. They're against the gays. And these people will come to Europe and will come here from Ukraine and will beat our LGBT community. This turns people away from supporting and aiding Ukraine. This is what the FSB agents are working for, or the so-called useful idiots who are helping and echoing the Russian propaganda. I could talk about children and youngsters. I would like to share a couple of good words. When I was visiting Petrivci Village School yesterday, my experience is that by definition, by default, youngsters and teenagers are about a source of energy, about a hope for the future, a hope that can be argued with. I was so moved, and I felt it. And the fact that not only are they asking questions, they initiate different topics. Indeed, it is very positive. It is evident of the fact that we should preserve our youngsters, our teenagers, from something, shall I say, bad, quote unquote, is to teach them how to put questions and critically assess what they hear. On this track, there is a lot of work to be done, but I think that there are nice developments here that we are witnessing. Different questions, perhaps, can be asked by our journalists. Now, I would like to be brief in my question. Now, this is the fourth Pride during the full-scale invasion. Will you be represented in European Prides? We are not planning. This is an exhaustive effort. You see, Ukraine is something that we are focusing on, but we cooperate and encourage the image of Ukraine to be present in other countries. Viktor has mentioned what is very important. There is an organizational issue where Kyiv Pride and Kharkiv Pride, Odessa Pride are part of, and we keep each other posted. There are more than 100 prides held, and I remember Was it last year or the year before last one, at the conference when one of the major prides in Europe, when he was quite a relaxed atmosphere, and he was asking me, why do we need another Poland in the European Union? And I didn't know what to answer, to be honest, or Hungary. This year, there is a ban on Pride in Hungary, and I know that people will be coming here. The majority of them will be organizers will be converging on Hungary, in spite of the fact that Lisbon will see the central Pride. Everyone is going to Hungary, to Budapest, to support the Budapest Pride. What matters for me most is the fact that it's not a matter of how we are viewed and perceived by our neighbor. What will people say? What matters for me is we should not create a flashpoint within Ukraine. We should be aware of what is the source of the safety of this country, what should be in the focus of our, shall I say, rage against the invader. I wish you success and all the possible success to all the participants. We've been talking about the March of Equality and the Pride Month in Ukraine. Media Center Ukraine will resume our operations next week, and thank you for being with us. Stay tuned.